everyone. I am Tom Shillue in for Greg Gutfeld. Let's kick things off with some jokes. Rosie O'Donnell took to TikTok to say F you, Time magazine, for naming Trump as Man of the Year, adding, that award belonged to me. Yeah. Vending machines that dispense ammunition are coming to U.S. grocery stores. As a result, cashiers are planning to loosen up the 8 items or less rule in the express line. In a new study, rats are learning to drive miniature cars, and they seem to enjoy it. Rats, of course, are a lot like Uber drivers, only they have better hygiene. That's kind of a New York thing, right? Yesterday, a magnitude 2.8 earthquake shook the Los Angeles area. The tremors were so powerful, some shoppers at Target actually dropped the merchandise they were stealing. A DJ stabbed by a dancer at a vegan strip club said it felt like he was being attacked by a 500-pound man. But investigators say he's just really weak from being a vegan. All right, now to the monologue. Trump's press conference yesterday gave some insight into what his second term is going to look like, and it seems to be cause for celebration. It was a freewheeling presser without any notes or a teleprompter, and he didn't have any approved lists of reporters or pre-written questions. You can tell because he, of course, got a lot of questions like this.
Are you entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities?
Against who?
Against Iran's nuclear
Well, I
facilities?
can't tell you that.
I
mean, it's a wonderful question, but how can am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that?
Yeah, how could he answer a question like that? That would ruin the surprise. Like me saying that in The Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis is dead the whole time, which I would never do. Trump also demonstrated the art of the deal with the diminutive CEO of SoftBank, who just pledged a $100 billion investment in the United States. Now, what do you think Trump said to that? That sounds good enough? Not quite.
Would you make it $200 billion? I said. He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but he's now asking to do more. I will try to make it happen.
That's good.
All right.
200. He'll make it happen. 200 billion investment.
He is a great negotiator.
He is. Trump drives a harder bargain with Japan than Godzilla. And Trump wasn't happy with the news that the Biden administration is auctioning off pieces of his border wall for pennies on the dollar. But is it very powerful steel? Is it very hard steel?
It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. It's a special type of steel, but very, very hard to cut inside the steel. And then we put a anti-climb plate on the top. You saw that. And I didn't like the look of it, but then when I watched, we had people testing. We had mountain climbers actually testing, and they were not able to get over the anti-climb plate, so I said, all right, I guess we're going to put it on. That plate on top, which I never loved the look of it, but it works so unbelievably well, you have to do it.
Yes, you do. By the way, Judge Janine purchased some of that wall just to keep Greg from her stash of Activia. Okay, so we got two of Trump's favorite subjects, economic growth and securing the border. But will he take a look at TikTok?
We'll take a look at TikTok. I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you gotta be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute.
It was cute, actually. And was it Barron who introduced his dad to that tiny little man he'd never heard of? The media has been fear-mongering about Trump's plans for RFK Jr., saying he wants to, quote, bring back polio. which is basically this year's he's telling us to drink bleach. But does he think you're going to find that Bobby is a very rational guy?
I think you're going to find that Bobby is he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen.
And how about those mysterious drones popping up all over New Jersey and other states up and down the East Coast? Does our military know where they took off from?
Our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense.
Yeah, I don't want the military in my garage. Unless they look like Pete Hegseth. Yeah. But all in all, it was an hour-long tour de force, and now Trump seems to be clearing a path to actually govern. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but do we finally have a reason to be optimistic about making America great again? I hope so. I hope so, because then I can put my Solaflex back in my bomb shelter.
Period.
Yeah, let's welcome tonight's guest. His shows are the perfect gift for people that can't afford coal. Writer and comedian Joe DeVito. He grew a beard so bouncers would stop asking for his ID. Host of The Guy Benson Show, Guy Benson. She's deductive and reproductive. New York Times best-selling author and Fox News contributor, Captain Tim. And he'll refute your fables and slam you through a table. New York Times best-selling author, comedian, and former NWA World Champion. All right, Guy, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Although I love you, Tom, I'm a little sad that Greg isn't here.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to compliment him and congratulate him, not on the birth of his child, although I would do that as well. I'm not a monster. But before he left on leave, he made a very funny joke, and you just made one about Pete Hegseth as well. It was about the whole confirmation process and the controversy. And Greg put up like a montage of images of Pete.
Yeah.
And then came back and said, I think I just turned gay. Which, you know, I give him grief and back and forth, but that is genuinely funny.
Yeah. Is that the way it happens, Guy?
Just turned. Yeah, that's good. Here's the thing about the press conference yesterday. I was watching it. I was on the outnumbered couch here waiting to go on the air. We're like, all right, are we going to have a show or not? Is he going to go 2 hours? He went over an hour. And I don't know if you felt the same way. There were times where I had to remind myself that he is not president yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of feels like he is the president. People say it's like he's acting president. And you can see it actually seeping into the mentality even of the people who hate him, where I'm seeing on social media, like friends and strangers, blaming Trump for things that are happening now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not president. It's still your guy. I think Biden's going to do this at some point. He's like, my successor has done fill in the blank. It's like, dude, you are in office for the next, 35 days? And people are just over it. They've skipped ahead. He just doesn't have the authority yet.
It's so true. I mean, we all kind of feel that way. We're feeling optimistic, right, Joe?
Sure.
And so I saw you were kind of laughing along with this presser, with those clips. He does have a great sense of comic timing. Would you say he's a colleague of yours in the world of stand-up comedy?
He's very funny, but by the way, thanks for ruining the ending to Sixth Sense.
I know.
Yeah, you did not give me hardly any time to watch it.
Yeah.
It like just came out.
If you have anything to say about the crying game, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Catching up on
Yeah, and don't tell me what happens in Titanic.
Trump is really funny, and it's a good contrast to when Biden used to say some nonsense and then go, no joke. And people would say, yeah, that wasn't a joke.
Yeah, well,
no one
exactly.
thinks you're joking. I think you can tell he's got the press on their heels because the gotcha questions are getting more and more ridiculous. This, Mr. President, do you have any secret plans you can fill us in on right now? If you bomb Tehran, will you send them a save the date email first? Like, and now you have this relationship where we can say to him, like, that's a stupid question. Why are you wasting our time with that? I like that it's such a contrast, like Guy said, that you see people moaning about why doesn't Trump do something about it? Because he hasn't taken over yet.
Right.
And I do like that he's now pairing up with Eric Adams in New York.
Yes.
I think these people are coming around. Eric Adams wants to address the migrant crisis. I think he says send
He
them
wants a
back.
pardon, is what he wants.
He wants a pardon, yes. But he's saying send them back, and I think Eric Adams is the man to do it because he does get those good deals on airfare.
So true.
If they don't mind on the way to Guadalajara, they just have to change planes in Istanbul if they don't have a problem.
That's right. Kat, what was your favorite clip? We were all enjoying it here in the studio.
The Iran one. I mean,
Yeah.
are you planning any secret attacks? It was I thought it was great the way he handled it because I mean, imagine being that reporter. How do you feel after that? Like, can you imagine if I answered that question? Because if it was Biden, he would have answered it somehow.
Yeah.
In a way that he would have just picked one. Like, he would have just picked either yes or no, babbled off about something else, and then his team would have had to clean it up. Like, this major geopolitical statement would have made it.
Yeah.
Until we got to the point where we stopped taking anything that he had to say seriously. Where he's the leader of the free world, but he just said, remember, I knew this was years ago, but when he said he had cancer, everyone's like, you couldn't possibly think he said he meant he actually had cancer. When he said that, it's like, okay, this is insane, that we can't take this person at their word anymore. So I thought it was fun to watch too. And I think that the way he answered it was kind of enough of the zinger, but he wasn't outright mean. He wasn't actually outright really mean to anybody. It was like, oh, that was too much, too far. It just looked like he was having a good time.
Yeah, he was kind of rolling with the Tyrus. And I mean, you've interviewed him. Did you see him in what was the word he liked to use? He said the weave. He was doing the weave a lot in this press conference.
You have to give and I hate saying this, but you have to give the media a break. They haven't been able to ask a question in 3.5 years.
Forgot how.
Yeah.
So that guy was so excited. He was like, I'm going to ask the best question I have.
Yeah.
Like, sir, are you planning to bomb Iran? You know? Because before they would be like, sir, oh, sorry. Are you happy today? What's the card say? Yes, you are. I mean, that's so. And Katz, what Biden would have said is he would have started to say something like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble," and that further lets you know he's not running the country.
Yeah.
Like he came back from his press conference and there was someone waiting with a wooden spoon. Were we talking out of turn again? How many times has Pelosi told you not to talk to the press? So it's a completely new world and an opportunity, and I hope the journalists will use this to reset and get back to journaling because he's ready for it. Just when we did our sit down, there was no, hey, what questions you want to ask? Plus, they knew better.
Yeah.
Because I'm a dog chasing a tire. I have no idea we'll see how it goes. So it's good to see a president who can think on his feet, answer correctly, and not afterwards have a team of scientists get together and try to form what the he just said.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Up next. Hey, Kamala staffer let slip how the Dems lost their grip.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.